My dad called me last week and said, "Hey, you should come over this Sunday. We're doing a big family dinner." And without even thinking, I said, "They're not my family, Dad, and you know it." I'm Ethan, I'm 20, and I grew up in a small Ohio suburb where everybody knew everybody, which means everybody knew my dad's perfect blended family was anything but perfect. My mom left when I was 3. She didn't just drift away. She was gone. No calls, no birthday cards, nothing. So it was just me and my dad until I was 5. That's when he met Karen. Karen was a widow with 5 kids. Her oldest 4 were basically adults already. College-aged, working jobs, living their own lives. But her youngest, Logan, was 7. 2 years older than me. I thought, great. Finally someone close to my age. Maybe a built-in best friend. The first week I moved into their split-level house, I followed Logan around like a puppy. We both went to Lincoln Elementary, rode the same yellow school bus, even lived in rooms right across the hall from each other. One afternoon, I walked into the living room with my Legos and asked if he wanted to build something. He didn't even look up from his Game Boy, just said, "Go away." I laughed at first, thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And that "go away" turned into a theme for the rest of my childhood. Logan wanted nothing to do with me. No sleepovers in the same room, no riding bikes together, no trading Pokemon cards. At school, he pretended not to know me. At home, he shut his door. And his older siblings? Oh, they made it worse. They'd come over for weekends, arms full of candy and movie tickets. For him. Once, Karen asked if they could take me along. I still remember the way one of them looked at me and said, "He's not our brother. Don't make this weird." Then turned to Logan like I wasn't even standing there and said, "Come on, let's go before Mom changes her mind." It wasn't just once. Birthdays, Christmas, 4th of July barbecues. Same thing. They'd roll in, shower Logan with gifts, and pretend I didn't exist. My dad, well, he'd try. He'd slip me an extra present or take me to McDonald's after they left. But how do you make up for sitting alone in your room while everyone else is laughing downstairs? By the time I hit middle school, I'd figured out the pattern. Whenever Karen's kids were around, I became invisible. Thanksgiving was the worst. The house would smell like turkey and cinnamon candles, the table set with Karen's fancy plates she only brought out once a year. And then I'd watch as everyone squeezed in around it. Karen at one end, my dad at the other, Logan dead center surrounded by his siblings. I'd get stuck on the far end next to some random cousin of theirs who never even bothered to learn my name. Christmas? Same deal. Karen's kids would crowd the tree, handing each other gifts with inside jokes and big reactions. I'd unwrap socks from my dad and mumble a thanks, while Logan was showing off the new PlayStation game his brother just bought him. One year, Karen's oldest son actually told me, "Why don't you just stay upstairs? We're doing family photos." Family photos, like I wasn't even part of the picture, literally. I started finding ways to disappear. I'd volunteer to walk to the gas station to grab a soda, even though it was freezing outside. Or I'd spend the whole day at the public library just to avoid being home when they were there. Dad would say, "Come on, Ethan, you can't just skip out on the holidays." But he never did anything to make them actually include me. And I think deep down, he knew why I didn't want to be there. One night, I overheard Karen's daughters in the kitchen, laughing about how chill things were when I wasn't around. "If only Mark would get rid of his kid, this would be perfect," one of them said. I was 14. I remember sitting in my room later, staring at the ceiling and thinking about something I'd heard one of my friend's moms say, "Family isn't just blood, it's about who shows up for you." And that's when it hit me. These people weren't my family. They never were. The next few years, I went into full survival mode. I stopped trying to win Logan over. I stopped caring if they liked me. My goal was simple. Turn 18, get out, and never look back. Looking back now, I think about what one of my friends told me when I was venting. Some dads care more about having a woman in their bed than being a dad. At the time, I didn't want to believe it. But the older I get, the more I think he was right. It all came to a head when I was 15. It was Logan's birthday and Karen went all out. Balloons everywhere, rented a giant inflatable slide for the backyard, a table stacked with pizza boxes from Domino's. Half the high school seemed to be there. I was in the kitchen pouring myself a Coke when Karen's oldest daughter walked in. She looked at me like I'd just broken into her house. "Are you lost? This is Logan's party." I laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, I know. I live here, remember?" She smirked and said, "Well, maybe hang out inside so you don't make it weird." The thing was, she didn't even whisper. Everyone within earshot heard it. I felt my face burn. I set the Coke down, went to my room, and stayed there until the music died down that night. When my dad came in to check on me, I finally snapped, "Do you even see what's going on? They don't want me here, Dad. They've never wanted me here." He sighed, sat on the edge of my bed like this was some minor teenage drama. "Ethan, they just need time. Families don't always click overnight." "It's been 10 years, I shot back. "You chose this, and you let them treat me like crap the whole time." He rubbed his forehead like I was exhausting him. "I didn't want to miss out on being happy, son. And Karen makes me happy." That hit harder than I expected. He wasn't even denying it. My happiness had never been the priority. I didn't say anything else that night. But I started keeping score after that. Every insult, every time they left me out, every time my dad looked the other way, it all went into this mental list. By the time I was a senior in high school, I'd stopped going to their family dinners altogether. Karen called me ungrateful once because I skipped Thanksgiving to eat takeout in my room. I just told her, "Gratitude's for people who treat you like you matter." That's when I started saving every spare dollar from my part-time job at Target. I wasn't just planning to move out. I was planning to make sure I never needed to move back. I turned 18 in May. By June, I was gone. I didn't have some perfect college dorm escape. I was couch surfing. 2 weeks on my friend Tyler's pullout, a month in my buddy Chris's basement, a couple of nights in my beat-up Honda Civic when things got messy. But you know what? Even sleeping in my car felt lighter than sleeping in that house. No walking into a room and feeling eyes roll. No pretending not to hear them joke about how things were so much more fun without Ethan. No wondering if my dad was going to defend me. I already knew he wouldn't. After about 6 months, I finally got a room in a crappy 3-bedroom apartment with 2 friends from work. The walls were thin, the hot water barely lasted for 1 shower, and the oven door wouldn't close all the way. But it was mine, my space. I still texted my dad every now and then, mostly short stuff. "Happy birthday, Merry Christmas, congrats on the new job." We weren't close, but we weren't completely done either. Then, a few weeks ago, he called me out of the blue. "Hey Ethan, we're having a big family dinner next Sunday. Karen's cooking. All her kids are coming, plus some of her cousins you haven't met yet. You should come." I actually laughed. Not the funny kind, or the "you've got to be kidding me" kind. "They're not my family, Dad. You know I wouldn't be welcome there." He tried to soften it. "We might not get along all the time, but we are family. You can't just cut people off." "That's the thing," I said. "We're not. You made the choice to stay with people who made it clear I wasn't part of them, and I didn't get a say. I'm not going to sit at a table and pretend we're something we never were." He got defensive. "That's not fair. I made sure you didn't miss out on stuff. I spent extra on you so you wouldn't feel left out." That's when I lost it. "Dad, you can't buy your way out of letting me be rejected in my own home. A few extra presents don't erase years of being treated like a stranger under your roof." He went quiet after that, and for the first time I realized I wasn't the one feeling guilty anymore. After that phone call, I didn't hear from my dad for almost 2 weeks. No texts, no missed calls, nothing. Honestly, it felt peaceful. I talked about it with my roommate Jess one night while we were eating leftover pizza on the couch. She's the kind of person who says exactly what's on her mind. "Ethan, I'm just going to say it. Some dads care more about having a woman next to them than actually parenting their kid. My uncle was the same way. You can't fix that. You can only decide how much space it gets in your life." It reminded me of something a teacher once told me back in high school. Family is who shows up for you, not who shares your DNA. And the truth was, the people who showed up for me weren't living in that split-level house in the suburbs. They were my friends, my roommates, my boss at Target, who slipped me extra shifts when I needed money for rent. Still, The conversation with my dad stirred up more than I wanted to admit. I started thinking about therapy, something that was basically a dirty word in our house growing up. Karen used to say stuff like, "Only crazy people need therapists." But now, I wondered if maybe crazy was just their word for people trying to get better. I mentioned it to Jess, and she told me about her own experience. You don't realize how much crap you've been carrying until you start unpacking it with someone who's actually on your side. It's like emotional spring cleaning. That hit me, because I've spent my whole life avoiding certain rooms in my own head, just like I used to avoid certain rooms in that house. I'm not saying therapy is going to magically fix everything, but maybe it could help me build a life where I'm not constantly bracing for rejection. A week later, my dad sent me a text. "Door's always open if you want to come by." I stared at it for a long time. He probably thought it was an olive branch, but to me, it felt like a reminder. That door opens to a house where I was never welcome. So I didn't answer. Not because I hate him, but because for once, I'm choosing my own peace over his comfort. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if my dad had chosen differently. If he'd seen the way they looked at me that very first week and said, "This isn't okay." If he'd stood up for me instead of telling me to give it time. But that's not what happened. Instead, I learned early that you can live in the same house with people and still be completely alone. You can sit at the same dinner table and still feel like you don't belong there. And the worst part? You can get used to it. That's why now I don't chase people to see me as family. I don't beg for a seat at a table that was never meant for me. I build my own table with people who want me there. When I think about my childhood, the thing that still stings the most isn't the exclusion from birthday parties or the missing invites to movie nights. It's the fact that my dad watched it happen, year after year, and stayed. The other night, I was walking home from work, and I passed a house lit up for Christmas. Strings of colored lights, inflatable Santa on the lawn, kids laughing inside. For a split second, I thought about our old house, the way Karen used to cover every inch of it with decorations. And then I remembered. All that sparkle never reached me. It was just for show. People say blood is thicker than water, but honestly, that phrase has been used to trap so many people in relationships that hurt them. I've decided my family is made up of the ones who actually give a damn. So when my dad says, "We're family," I know he means biology. When I say, "We're not," I mean something else entirely. I mean love, protection, and showing up. All the things I never got from him in the one job that mattered most. And yeah, maybe one day I'll be ready to have a deeper conversation with him. Maybe I'll even forgive him. But I'll never forget what it felt like to be treated like a guest, or worse, an intruder, in my own home. So, Reddit, if you were in my shoes, would you forgive a parent who let you grow up feeling unwanted in your own house? Or is it okay to walk away and never look back?